The Kimberley area is all about the tides, the rocks, and the crocs. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then you're in the right cruise chat for you this week. Let's hop aboard and learn all about the Kimberley. Everybody, and welcome to this week's cruise chat. I'm Kathleen Penner, owner of Plenty of Sunshine Travel, and today I'm joined by Kristin. And Kristin is from, as you can see on her shirt, from Silversea Expeditions. And I am so excited to meet with her again. I adore expedition cruises. I love Silversea, so this is just perfect. I'm excited to meet with you. Those of you who are tuning in for the first time, go on back when we're done this episode and look at the playlist. I've got a lot of different meetings with Silversea, and I'd love for you guys to get caught up on the brand and all the great stuff that I have there. But I'm very excited to learn about the Kimberley. It's not an area a lot of people know, and you just got back. So I'm going to turn this right over to you, Kristin.
Thank you so much, Kathleen. And again, it's always such a pleasure to have the opportunity to do these cruise chats with you. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to talk to the audience about the Kimberley. It is, I'll admit, a destination from an expedition standpoint I wasn't all that familiar with in my past life. I, have always done polar inside and out, tons of times in Antarctica, different variations of the Arctic, done Galapagos from a warm weather expedition perspective a few times as well. But the opportunity to go to the Kimberley came up this summer for my husband and I for vacation. Yes. And it's one of our areas where we do actually reposition one of our ships at the end of the Antarctic season, all the way over to the Kimberley in Australia to spend a full season there. We've been doing this destination for just over about 10 years now. We're one of the sort of pioneers in the mainstream cruising, because there's a lot of local operators, based in Australia as well. That visit the Kimberley, but from an expedition standpoint with mainstream cruise lines, we're the longest standing here in this destination. And so thrilled to take you through this incredible experience, because I think it's somewhere that I would love to see more Canadians, have the ability to travel, more North Americans in general, because I think we're missing out otherwise if we don't experience this destination.
And I love that Silversea's been there so long, because you really know the area then.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, amazing.
And so much of experience plays out in, having the knowledge of the destination with how the Kimberley, works. And we'll talk through sort of some of the, interesting tidal fluctuations and things like that, and how it really changes the experience in destination.
Hey guys, I'm just going to interrupt really quick here. I know that I'm loving this episode with Kristin talking about the Kimberley, but I just wanted to interrupt really quick to say I'm doing a new segment. And if you guys have recently cruised and you want to come aboard and be on my show, and you want to give a review, a cruise review, and talk about your experience, and maybe show some of your pictures and just talk about, where you went and what you did, send me an email, info@plentyofsunshinetravel.com. I'm working on a segment that I'm going to be doing, and I would love to feature you guys so that you can tell me your personal experiences. If you're a little bit camera shy, and believe me, I get it. I did not enjoy talking to the camera at the beginning. I'm very far in with my episodes, so it doesn't matter to me anymore. But if you're a little bit camera shy, but you still want to share your experience, drop me an email, and I would be glad to send you a questionnaire, and I'll make a blog post out of it. And then that way we can still give you a review, but you don't need to be on camera, which I get. So anyway, reach out to me, guys, info@plentyofsunshinetravel.com, but let's just hop back aboard and learn more about the Kimberley.
But I think most people wonder, where the heck is the Kimberley? You say the Kimberley, they're like, I don't have a clue. You could even tell me it was in Australia and they wouldn't have a clue where. So I thought this would be a nice little starter just to help pinpoint people to the destination. So part of Northwest Australia. And it is really best explored by coastline, because like a lot of the regions we visit in some of the other expedition destinations, there's not really roads that you can access, to a lot of this part of sort of the outback of Australia. There's not, a lot of human infrastructure. It's just very remote, very off the beaten path. And you can see and accomplish so much by doing it with an expedition cruise.
Yes.
And I think too, like, especially considering the length of flight it is to get to Australia, this is such a great opportunity to, build something bigger. Like with your clients, you could build in a grander pre and post
Yes.
To marry around it. Like when my husband and I went, we were pretty limited on vacation time. So we didn't see a lot, but we did go into Sydney first, did a couple day trips and things like that there so that he could see and experience it before heading up to Darwin. So great opportunity to make it part of a grander adventure if you're headed over to Australia.
I agree. Yes, absolutely. And it's funny, you're saying what a lot of people don't know, but I said to my husband, because I was looking at your pictures, right? Because we're friends on Facebook. And I was like, oh my goodness, I want to go to the Kimberley. Chris, do you want to go with me? And he's like, where is the Kimberley? What is that? He's like, he was picturing like a little island or something. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
So we had to like show him and call up the maps and but
that was exactly my husband. When I was like, how do you feel about our vacation spent in the Kimberley? And he was like, where the heck is that? And I was like, oh, it's in Australia. He's like, oh, Australia, cool. Like, I think just the fact that, we could go on vacation to this part of the world just blew his mind that I kind of so casually was like, let's go to the Kimberley for vacation.
Awesome.
What I think is so completely unreal from an experience perspective with the Kimberley is so much of the experience is based on tidal fluctuations. And we see that experience, in our own backyard here in Canada with Hopewell Rocks. And, how quickly, kind of the tides can come in and you can no longer walk around on the beach and around the rocks and things like that. So there's sort of two parts in the world where you see these very drastic tidal fluctuations here in Canada and actually here in the Kimberley in Northwest Australia as well. And so I'll walk you through how the tides can kind of affect and change some of the experience in the best way possible. As we progress through the destination. There's also, the big draw here, as you can see, a lot of the sandstone cliffs, that really rich kind of red sandstone cliff. These are some of the oldest rock formations in the world, almost 2 billion with a B years old. And again, like people don't really know about that or don't really, have a lot of knowledge about this. So oldest rock art and some of the oldest Aboriginal rock art ever found in the region as well. So lots of really unique draws. Now, yes, there is a wildlife aspect to the Kimberley as well. It's not the same type of experience as, Galapagos and Antarctica, where there is just wildlife everywhere all the time. I would kind of equate the wildlife to a little bit more like an Arctic experience. You have to go looking for the wildlife and you're going to see them, as individual animals, or bird life rather than in huge, herds or flocks and things like that. So yes, there's wildlife, but it's not as prevalent. It's not as obvious. And I think some of the highlight is when you do, spot the crocodile and things like that. It's surprising. It's, a really exciting experience to encounter. Absolutely. So I kind of like to say the Kimberley is like tides, rocks, and crocs is sort of like to sum it up in a little phrase. That's sort of what makes up the Kimberley.
That's great.
So we use our ship Silver Cloud in the Kimberley. She's 254 guests, and that's if she's maxed out with triple occupancy and things like that. So on my voyage, we were 230 guests. And I love this photo on the right-hand side because you can see, of course, our vessel, and then you see a crocodile just behind it there swimming in the water. And that is why in this destination, we don't swim. As tempting as some of these amazing blue waters are, and the beaches, we don't do any swimming activities here, and we don't do kayaking because, of course, of the threat of the saltwater crocodile pretty much everywhere along that route.
Very wise. You want to go back home.
Yeah, right. Like we want to make sure our guests enjoyed the experience and came home to tell the tale
Right.
to their
And
friends and
keeping all your
family.
limbs intact. It's a very
Exactly, exactly.
so,
So, how we do see and experience this destination is through a few different components.
mhm,
Given that a lot of the coastline in the Kimberley is, a lot of these sandstone cliffs, we do a lot of zodiac cruising.
mhm,
And this activity, I think, is just such a perfect way to see and experience this coastline. And it's so amazing how small and insignificant you feel when you're in a zodiac, just,
yes,
peering up at these amazing cliff faces around you.
absolutely.
Um, we do also get the opportunity to do landings and hikes.
Mhm.
And again, this is where like the temptation of the beautiful beaches comes into play,
Right.
because
Yeah.
you're, stepping ashore onto these amazing white sand beaches and you're like, oh my gosh, would I just love to dive in and do a soak in the beautiful blue water too. But lots of
To
opportunity
use the
there.
pools on board. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Cloud's got a beautiful, pool deck with the grill and the bar right there and everything, so we can enjoy
Everything
the
you
water
need.
activities
Yeah.
on the ship. And now, of course, I mentioned the Aboriginal rock art. Now, a lot of it is, on its own, not around any humans or things like that, but there is an experience that we can have with actually an Aboriginal family who lives and works to preserve and protect one of the sites as well. So we can talk about that.
Mm.
Now, pretty much with the Kimberley, everything comes included, with the exception of we do have two different opportunities in this region to offer flight seeing. And of course, this would be the only thing that would come at a cost on this expedition,
Mhm.
because of course it's limited numbers. We can obviously only fill as many helicopters or small little planes that we have. But I'll share you one of the experiences that I personally took part in. And the nice thing is we offer them multiple times in a day, so that we can accommodate as many people as would
Yeah.
like to participate.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's always that element of education with expedition. And we've got a phenomenal expedition team that both on and off ship take the opportunity to help our guests further understand the destinations, things like the rock art, what it is we're actually seeing. Geologists, they absolutely love working in this destination
Oh, I
because
bet. Yes.
kind of a more fitting destination when it comes to learning about different, rocks and erosion and how it affects the landscapes and things like that. So this is sort of a nice little sample of what the Kimberley looks like from an experience perspective.
Awesome.
Now, from an itinerary perspective, we do have a couple longer itineraries
Mhm.
where we mix in the Kimberley as well as parts of Indonesia. So if you're thinking like Pink Beach, Komodo Island, like the opportunity to go see the Komodo dragons, if you have the longer time to travel,
Mm.
that is a really neat itinerary to experience. And I think we've got two of those in 2025. And then towards the end of the season, once the ship is about ready to reposition back over to Antarctica, we do a longer 17 itinerary that goes a little bit further along the western coast of Australia. So again, for any potential guest that is looking to go and have the cruise be the main part of their trip,
Yes.
these are some a couple really great longer itineraries to enjoy. But the core of the season is spent doing this 10-day kind of iconic Kimberley expedition. And we do it round trip out of Darwin, just to make airfare easier for getting in and out of the country, a little bit more of a built up city. I wouldn't, if I can be fair, I wouldn't recommend too much extra time in Darwin. It's a city, but a small city. There's not a ton to do. There's a great waterfront area for dining and things like that. But there's not a lot to do in the region, more than maybe adding an extra day on the beginning, just for, assuring you get to the ship on time.
Yeah, and acclimating to the new time zone and all that fun.
Exactly. Yeah. And like, if you want to go earlier in advance and do, a broader land package, I would just recommend, a different part of Australia, because there's not a lot that you can do from Darwin. It's a little bit more isolated in Australia. But fantastic place, just it's just so intimate and quaint, because it's not like a huge, massive cruise port that we're used to, with some of the ports here, especially down in Florida. It's, nice personal little, it was us and one other expedition company that were there. So it's very seamless boarding experience, getting on and off an expedition.
Different on a small ship anyway. It is so expedited. It's just quick and easy, and your stateroom is already ready, and it's beautiful. I love small ship cruising for that.
Exactly. So once we get into the itinerary side of things, this would be the only day where the ship is actually docked. So Wyndham is an area that we can, pull the ship alongside. There's nothing there. There's nothing around. So we do bus our guests. Like this particular excursion that I did was the Ord River. It's sort of like a speedboat type of experience, but of course we slow down for moments of, just learning and understanding and looking at the wildlife and things like that. So we did drive probably about, I would say, an hour and a half further inland to get to the Ord River to be able to board the boat. And very comfortable experience. And it's always nice to work with a local operator as well. But one of the perks along the Ord River is the freshwater crocodile. So the Kimberley is like 99% saltwater crocodiles, but the one river that they exist where they are freshwater is here in the Ord River. And what is so interesting is they actually have, traps and things set up all along the Ord River, so that if a saltwater crocodile ever gets into this river, they can easily trap them, remove them, and take them back to where they are supposed to belong. Because the locals use the Ord River for recreation. They do their water activities, they do fishing along here, family days, outings, things like that. And believe it or not, even with freshwater crocodiles in the water, they go swimming all the time in the Ord River. And they're like, the freshwater crocs are harmless. They're not interested in us. But we constantly have, anybody who is recreationally using the river, we've got local kind of security and things like that to make sure that the saltwater crocs are not mixing into the river. And they do, once they know they're in the area, they will capture them and put them back in their proper habitat. And they say maybe once a summer, a saltwater croc will get into the river. So it's not like it's constant, but they do recognize it as a threat. So they're very careful about making sure they put them back in their proper habitat. Of course, they want to make sure everyone in the region is safe. So crocodiles is a huge, the freshwater croc is a huge perk here in Ord River. And also the rock wallabies. Now, this was like a lucky shot that we got. Again, it's not like Antarctica where penguins and seals are everywhere. These guys are typically kind of curled up in kind of the shadows of a cave along the cliffs and things like that. But we did have a luck where this one actually with its young as well had made an appearance onto one of the rocks a little bit higher up. And of course, people with better cameras than me, I'm just using my iPhone camera, were able to capture this shot. So
I think in such an iconic destination as that, I'll definitely have the DSLR with me at all
times. Yeah, you never absolutely, know, right? Absolutely. Amazing. And then also too, just kind of hanging in the trees and the mangroves around the cliffs, we get the kingfishers. And the sugar bats as well. And it was so amazing to see the sugar bats. Like you'd all of a sudden, among the mangrove trees, just see this huge section where all of a sudden it's very black. And it's just because all the sugar bats are just hanging from the trees all together. So really unique wildlife opportunities. But again, you're keeping an eye out for them. You might have binoculars with you, you're looking for them. They're not right in our face all the time in order to see them. Now, one of the flight seeing opportunities that our guests had or could take advantage of from Wyndham, so if they didn't do the Ord River cruising, they could enjoy the Bungle Bungle flight. And what is so interesting about the Bungle Bungles is this region is probably about 360 million years old.
Oh my God.
And after years of erosion from weather and the rivers and everything like that, these sort of beehive looking, mountain structures were created. And ironically enough, the only people that knew the bungles existed were the local Aboriginals. It wasn't until there was a documentary company filming in the Kimberley to, just kind of create this documentary back in the early 80s, that they actually, when they were doing one of their flyovers for, some great zoom shots and things like that, or panoramic shots, that they actually flew over this region. And they were like, what the heck is this? This was back in 1983. So this is kind of the first time modern humanity had ever found or spotted the Bungle Bungles. And of course, this took their documentary on a completely different tangent once they discovered this region. So we give our guests the opportunity to take a small plane. I want to say it's about 6 to 8 guests per plane.
Yes.
And we take a few of the planes and we do a flight seeing excursion over here. This was actually made into a UNESCO World Heritage Site back in 2003. So still a very new, discovery for something that has existed for hundreds of millions of years. And that's a lot of the kind of, geological history that comes into this destination.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you know why they're called Bungle Bungles?
Oh gosh, that's a good reason. I should look that up actually. Yeah,
like what is we'll share that. Yeah.
What's the significance of the word bungle? I wonder if it means kind of a reflection of what the actual structure looks like. Maybe that's an Aussie term or something. Homework for afterwards.
There you go.
To find out.
Yeah, my apologies for putting you on the spot. I was just
no. Oh my gosh, I think that's a great question, and now it's got my brain ticking a little bit. Now I need to know the answer. And as I mentioned, the opportunity to do some Zodiac cruising here along, different river systems. This particular one is the King George River, and the highlight of this river is, of course, the amazing, sandstone cliffs that are all around you. And you can see like a lot of the greenery, the mangroves that kind of exist along with the cliff system. But I hope this video comes through okay. Yeah. We love to use this opportunity. So there's 2 twin falls at the end of the King George River. And like you would do a polar plunge in Antarctica or the Arctic, we use the King George River to do the waterfall dunk. Of course, for our guests that want it, we don't force this on anybody. But, so we love the enthusiastic guests that they all kind of, pile up at the front of the Zodiac. And we like to dip the Zodiac under the waterfall for our guests to have a nice little way to cool off, which
great experience.
I absolutely love. Yes. When we did it, our Zodiac, we did it as like pairs or individuals. So my husband and I did it and have a fun little video and photo of the 2 of us under the waterfall. So again, like just a nice little fun way to add to the experience. Yes. And then of course the hope of, seeing some of our friendly saltwater crocs along the river as well. Yeah. While we're there. Now, Vansittart Bay, this was one of those, places. You can see how beautiful the water is, how beautiful the beach is. Not allowed to participate in anything related to how wonderful those both look. But what's so crazy about Vansittart Bay is the reason we go here is because there is a plane crash site located not too far into the bush. I would say maybe a 15 to 20 minute walk into the bush at low tide. If it's high tide, there is a longer path that we need to take that goes a little bit more in a detour way, which might take maybe 30 minutes. But this C-53 plane crash site, so back in February of 1942, during World War II, This plane was flying from Perth to Broome. And I guess in the darkness of the night, the pilot sort of lost sense of direction, and maybe they didn't quite have the modern GPS systems and things like we have today, and ended up completely about 600 kilometers away from where he was actually supposed to land, ran out of fuel, and had to actually on purpose crash the plane in this region because they just, of course, they had no choice. They had no fuel left. Right. But interestingly enough, everybody survived. And about a week later, there was a Qantas flight that was coming overhead and saw the plane crash below. So everybody was rescued. No lives were lost. And now it just sits as this really interesting relic to go and visit when we're
That's
at.
A great story. Oh my goodness. I was so worried. I'm like, oh no, did people?
I know. We know it's like a negative, angle to these types of things. And so, yeah, it is positive. It's scary looking to begin with, but it's actually quite amazing. You can see what a fantastic job he did landing the plane, because to be at the site, the shell is very much intact. Right. So, I mean, kudos to the pilot. Although he was the reason, they ended up having to crash, he did a fantastic job to make sure that all lives were preserved.
Amazing. And you can see there's a lot of trees as well. So kind of navigating, where can I put this plane down?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So the Aboriginal art that's located in the Kimberleys, there's two different styles. There's one called Guion or Bradshaw, and that is the older style of the two. They say that some dates back over 40,000 years. A lot of the sites that we visited dated back about as far as 17,000 years. And then there's a second style called Wandjina, and that one dates back about 4,000 years. And they're very different in terms of the style of art. So this particular spot at Jar Island, this was our first introduction to the Guion art. And the figures are very, I almost call them sort of stick figure, like, tall, thin, usually dressed, you could sort of tell, in ceremonial costumes, with kind of the headdresses and tassels and things hanging from their costumes. So this was a lot of what the Guion art style was made up of. And you'll see the difference once I show you, the Wandjina style, because it's a little bit more modern day looking, with animals and things like that as well.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Yeah, it and what I think is so super neat, because you can see just from this group photo, like, these aren't just out obvious, for the public to go and see and easily access. We go into these little cave systems, and that's why, like, experience in this region is so critical and so key, because these things aren't obvious to find. You need to know the path through the outback to find where these sites are. So the fact that Silversea has been doing this for just over 10 years now in this region alone has really given us a lot of kind of insight and opportunity to know where the best places are to take our guests to.
Oh, wonderful.
So Ashmore Reef, this is such a random experience, because we're so used to all the sandstone cliffs and things like that. Yeah. And then we actually take about a half day, kind of an overnight and a little bit in the morning, to sail to this Ashmore Reef area. So we're surrounded by ocean all over. Yeah. But there are three sort of islands in this region. Ashmore Reef is one of the larger ones, and it's an area where seabirds come to breed, and also migratory birds come to breed and to rest as well. And it's this beautiful, kind of island with mangroves and kind of trees and things like that, where it's like bird paradise. So for anybody who is an avid birder, this is such a great day. So we take our zodiacs out. It is a protected sanctuary zone, so we're not allowed on the island as guests.
Mhm.
It is protected. So we just use our zodiacs to approach the island, and a lot of it is we just kind of scroll back and forth, or just sit like this one is here, just to observe. So you see things like frigate birds and terns, and like just the wildlife is amazing here, because we also get the sea turtles in the water, and some of the black tip reef sharks. So there's a lot of marine life. There's a lot of bird life that happens in and around this region. You can see some of the again, the people with the better cameras, this is the type of photos of the birds actually, with their nests and things like that.
Mhm.
So just such a totally different experience from, the day prior, where we're in caves looking for Aboriginal art. And the day prior to that, we're zodiac cruising around sandstone cliffs.
Yeah. And
Really
thinking of,
such a,
yeah, and just thinking of the cameras and thinking of such a small ship, because I know many times when I've been on small ship cruising, you get to know your fellow passengers. And
yeah,
if somebody has a
absolutely.
picture, they're like, "Oh, send me your email address. I'll send it to you." Like, no problem. So that's one of the things I love, that you're still with, you're with them and you're getting their good shots as well. So I think it's so nice, and you just feel so welcome, and you get to know everybody on board, and you share these kind of pictures too.
Absolutely. And this, on all of our expeditions, we have a professional photographer, videographer that follows along every day with our guests as well. And at the end of every voyage, our guests will get the overview video of their cruise. And honestly, I use these videos in, bigger presentations, like when I'm in front of people, because they are like movie quality. And most of the time, they always bring me to tears, because they do such a great job capturing the emotion
Yes.
of expedition. And they also provide all of their favorite photos from the voyage as well. So if you are like me and have just the crappy little iPhone camera, I do still actually get the opportunity to walk away from that expedition with professional photos
Yes.
from
Amazing.
my voyage in particular.
Oh, I love that. So
And
if anybody right now is thinking, this is it, I want to go, I want to come on board, send
yeah,
us an email, info@plentyofsunshinetravel.com, and I will definitely get you on board. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think,
no, no, no. I love these little introductions,
yeah,
and
and it's just someplace you want to go. So yeah.
totally. And cooler still. So on Silver Cloud, we've got a beautiful photo studio
Mhm.
with all these great, Mac computers. And our photo studio manager is there, that, even if you do have just your iPhone photos that you upload, or you have your professional equipment and you want to print anything on board, or learn editing techniques and things like that, we have this beautiful photo studio that you can, just work with the photo studio manager. He can walk you,
Yeah.
he or she
Oh,
can
you
walk
know
you
where I'll be
through
on board after
like
dinner. I'm
editing
there.
photos and things like that. And what was kind of fun is, all throughout the expedition, they ran a photo contest.
Mhm.
And so they picked, all the guests submitted, the best photos that they took throughout
Yes.
the expedition. And at the end, they, amongst the whole expedition team, they picked the top three of all of the submissions. And then what was kind of neat is the prize was, the photo studio manager had printed out, a large copy of their photo. And we
Oh.
have the nice, like, photo tubes and stuff that they could pack it up and take it home. So
Mhm.
I just love the connection to photography within our expeditions, because, whether you're an avid, professional photographer, a hobbyist,
Mhm.
there's an opportunity to enjoy these types of experiences, no matter what level you're at.
That's
So
great.
so we talk about, the tides and things like that. So you
Yes.
can see this is an experience in the morning where it's low tide. Obviously, our guests can be walking around kind of in the beach area and things like that. And I'll show you a photo at the end
Yeah.
where, by lunchtime, how different this landing site looked. So this was another opportunity to go a little bit further into the bush to find the Wandjina art
Mhm.
that I mentioned. And honestly, like you can see, the two people on the left-hand side here of the photo, these are members of our expedition team. like if I needed the hand or the help or the assistance to get into this, up this little part, they're positioned all over the trail, all, along the way to make sure that our guests are taken care of and can have the opportunity to get in and out of where the Aboriginal art is located.
Wow.
And again, just some of the great opportunities of where the art can be found. And I'll show you another photo as well. It's like sometimes just how challenging it can be. And so again, we try and make it comfortable and easy for our guests to see. But this is the other rock art style where they worked a lot of the animal life that they probably saw in their way of life. There was a kind of what would you call it? A little feud, a battle over if these were I think it was if these were ducks or if they were, what was the other? Anyway, there was this
That would have been a neat
hilarious
debate. Yeah, goodness.
yeah, like just, and again, like a lot of this is undocumented. And so, the kind of historians of today look at this art only with kind of speculation of what these drawings could have been about, based on maybe what the wildlife would have been like back in the day, things like that, what they would have had access to. But this is by lunchtime. So where you saw people walking on the beach in the morning, at lunchtime, by the time we're ready to go back to the ship, we are now loading people by Zodiac in that same area because all of the water had filled in by that point.
Incredible.
And it happened just within a span of a few hours. So absolutely crazy.
Oh, goodness. Wow.
This was the afternoon site that we went to. We did reposition the ship. And again, so, bless the expedition team, put this huge tarp down so that we weren't laying in the dirt. So you could actually lay down and take a picture of this particular rock art that was kind of above you when you were laying on the tarp there.
Oh my goodness, that's fantastic. I mean, everywhere you look, there's something.
Yeah, really, really interesting. And again, so many different interpretations of what these could be about. This one they think maybe was some sort of demon that they might have been experiencing or trying to ward off, from their homes and things like that.
Oh goodness.
So one of the other flight seeing experiences that our guests can opt into, and this is one I opted into, was a helicopter flight over to Mitchell Falls. And so we Zodiac our guests over to this beach. And what is so amazing, you feel like you're in a movie. You see like the helicopters come around the cliff and you watch them land onto the beach. And we offer this multiple times throughout the day. So it's like these two helicopters, will take our group of 8. We could fit 5 of us in each helicopter. They would take us to, the Mitchell Falls lookout point. And while we're enjoying the Mitchell Falls lookout point, they would come back and get the next guest. We would explore, and it's just this rotation system so that we can try and accommodate as many guests as possible.
Awesome.
And so this is just some of the views, and you can see, especially in the morning in Hunter River, this is low tide. So all of these mud flats that you see at the bottom of the screen there, all of that is exposed because it is low tide, and all the water has, of course, dropped and disappeared.
Oh my goodness.
And
wow.
There's no door on the helicopters. So you do need to have a little bit of a, true explorer spirit. Yes. You're, of course, nicely strapped in and everything with the proper belts and things like that. But you are exposed to the elements. So, but it makes for great photography and video as well.
Well, that's fantastic. What a highlight of your trip. Wow.
Oh, it absolutely was. So there's a little section, off of Mitchell Falls where all the helicopters come in and drop the guests. And then it's maybe a 20-minute hike to actually get over to Mitchell Falls, which is this one here.
Yes.
And there's a couple different viewpoints that we can go to in order to see the full falls, because there's sort of 3 main tiers of Mitchell Falls. The first viewpoint, you can kind of see the bottom two tiers. As you get to the third viewpoint, or the second viewpoint, you can see all three of them. So
Incredible.
just really stunning, absolutely stunning.
Oh, goodness. Wow. You would have so many stories when you come back, you wouldn't know which one to tell first.
I know. It's so funny because even when I started posting on Facebook, I think I stopped after like 2.5 days work because I just was like, I don't know how to capture this entire experience in one post. Or anyways, there's just so much going on all the time.
Yes. Yeah.
So for the guests that aren't doing the flight seeing, and interestingly enough, after the flight seeing, we could come back and do the same activity. During low tide in the morning, we take our guests out zodiac cruising along Hunter River. And you can see the mud flat behind here. And why this time of day is so great to be zodiac cruising is because the crocodiles are out because they are, hunting or fishing
Yeah.
in the shallows.
Mhm.
So we get to see, and when I say a lot, it could be 5 or 6 in a span of 2 to 3 hours of being out there,
Okay.
of the crocodiles. But you can just see, so like obviously there's the mangrove trees up at the top there. And then you can see how low the tide is that this little croc here gets exposed on the mud flats. But then what happens is, again, we go back to the ship, we
Mhm.
have lunch, the tides rise,
Mhm.
and then this is what it looks like.
Oh,
So you don't see any of the mud flats anymore. Now the water is as high right up to the mangroves.
my goodness.
But what it creates is all these little channels. So see all these like little river systems?
Yes.
Um, so this then opens up, rather than the morning where we're just going along the river, the big river looking at the wildlife and things like that. Now we can actually take our zodiacs into the mangroves and weave and wind and look for, usually more bird life is prevalent here because
Mm.
they're nesting or hiding up in the mangrove system. So it's like the exact same river, morning experience completely different from
Wow.
the afternoon experience. And
Yes.
that I think is just what blows my mind
Oh,
um,
absolutely.
about the Kimberley.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
staying on the track of tidal fluctuations. So this, I would imagine this would be one of the true highlights of everybody's expedition here.
mm.
Montgomery Reef is a major natural phenomenon that, again, I knew little to nothing about before coming here.
Right.
So, very early on in the morning, this would be water as far as the eye can see. You would feel like our ship is just in the middle of the ocean, in the
Mhm.
middle of nowhere. But what happens is, as the tide starts to drop, this reef system comes up out of the water. And there's about a 4 to 5 hour period where it is exposed out of the water. And believe it or not, this beautiful channel is visible and created
Mhm.
that we can then take our zodiacs through with our guests to experience the region. So
Okay.
you can see all these little like mini waterfall systems and things like that. And that's because as the tide is lowering, the water is just washing itself off of the reef as it continues to raise higher and higher out of the water. We get all kinds of bird life that comes into this region because, of
Mhm.
course, now all the little crustaceans and things that are on the
Yeah.
reefs are exposed. So
It's
it's
a
like an
feast.
immediate meal
Yeah.
for a lot of the birds. A lot of sea turtles are present in this region as well.
Mm.
And again, it's just, if you didn't have the experience of knowing, where this was located, where the little entrance point is in the reef to be able to get our guests in and out of the Zodiac, because you can't aerially view it, when you're driving a Zodiac. This is what all these years of experience in the Kimberley helps to deliver this type of experience. So just absolutely unreal to witness something like that. And
Incredible.
then one of the last spots that we visited for the Aboriginal art was in Freshwater Cove. And this is the site I mentioned. There is a local family that is, living here, protecting and preserving one of the main sites that is maybe about a half-hour walk into the bush. And so our guests come ashore and they take us through a welcome to country ceremony. And they, have this amazing song that they sing, and they use kind of a dab of okra and they put it on everybody's cheek, because that is a lot of what is used to make the Aboriginal art on the rocks. So you have this great connection with the family, and it's like, grandparents, parents, and their kids, and they just live here as a small family to preserve and maintain one of the rock art sites that exists here, of the Wandjina style. Yeah. And you can see our ship way out there in the back. So this is sort of what our guests are hiking through in order to get to the cave system where these Aboriginal rocks are located. Yes. And then we met the father who was waiting for us there. And we sat down in our little groups, and he discussed, again, just sort of the way of life and what they are doing to preserve the rock art in this particular region. So you can see this one here was newly kind of preserved. Obviously, the white is very prevalent and the ochre is very dark. So they have since, kind of in the last year or so, gone back and touched them up and touched it up with some of the ochre and things like that to keep it, around, keep it there for years to come. And then one of the final experiences we have in this region is, again, it's very based on tidal fluctuations, and it's called horizontal waterfalls. And just the way sort of the rock formation and the river, both on one side and the other, kind of come in contact with each other, it creates this that's why it's called horizontal waterfall. So we can't go through it, but there is an opportunity. You can see one of our zodiacs there. Just we can dip our zodiac into it, and we can play around in the water before coming out of it. But again, just so many great natural phenomena that this destination really delivers. And then, of course, we love to give those surprise and delight moments for our guests when we're out on expedition as well. And we always find some sort of creative story to get, each individual zodiac over to where our hotel team might be, with a nice little refreshment or bevy for our guests to enjoy. And that's always a highlight for the rest of that day is, oh my gosh, we had no idea that they were there. And, we couldn't believe that they had all of
planning this cute little surprise. And wow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Amazing.
I don't know if I've got a video next. I could try playing it. It's only about 30 seconds long. Just to kind of give a nice overview of everything we just sort of talked about in this last little bit. Let me try. I'll do the share sound, and let's see if this works okay. Love that, especially with the music. I get all the feels from
they certainly know how to pick the right music to go with it. Wonderful.
Absolutely. And then I think, just to finish off, I mean, this cruise has to have some of the best sunrises and sunsets I have ever seen on a ship. And it's daily, like every day. We had the opportunity to just experience some of the most amazing light. And it just again added to that extra special experience.
Wow.
So that's
Ooh,
it.
you are
In a big nutshell, that's it.
Yeah. Oh, incredible. Now, which of the three itineraries that you showed at the beginning was the one that you were on? I meant to ask.
So I did the 10-day that sailed. Now, my itinerary actually sailed Darwin to Broome in 10 days,
Yeah.
but we've recognized that for ease of flying in and out of that region, next year we're doing it as Darwin round trip.
Okay.
So you'll go down and back up. So it may not be the same order of
Yeah.
sites for next year's itinerary, but we'll have all the same opportunity to see and experience that
Wonderful.
part of the world. And it'll make it easier, as well for just planning pre and post, land packages and things like that. And time of year. So the Kimberley season is June through till the end of August, early September timeframe. So we're there during the Australian winter.
Mm-hmm.
It's so interesting because for us coming into Sydney and spending some time there prior, the temperatures in Sydney were about 10 degrees, 15
wow.
during the day
Nice.
when it would get a little bit warmer. Now, when we're over in the Kimberley region, your temperatures, we would get up to maybe mid 20s, maybe into the high 20s, low 30s,
Wow.
but really doesn't have the humidity that we have here,
Yes.
especially too, you're kind of in the desert outback, drier part of the
Mm-hmm.
country. So I was so pleasantly surprised by the comfortable temperatures
Yeah.
of the Kimberley during their winter time. So I think as Canadians, that's like a perfect summer temperature for us,
Oh,
like
I
those mid
know.
20s.
Yeah, I
So
find I kind of escape our big humid time, which is the last couple of weeks of July, first week of August, and it's like,
yeah,
I'll go to Norway, I'll go to Alaska, I'll go to Iceland, anything that's like temperate, a little better. And
absolutely. I am the same way.
so,
I'm the
and
same
now
way.
the
So this
Kimberley's
was a
on my list.
pleasant surprise because I just assumed everything was always going to be, crazy hot, but it was really comfortable.
Amazing. Well, now that one's on my list. And if it's on any of you guys who is watching list, make sure you reach out to me. Absolutely. Info at plentyofsunshinetravel.com because I cannot wait to hear about your experience too. So I want to thank you so much, Kristin, for taking the time to meet with us and to show us that incredible itinerary. I know how much work it is to put it all together, but it's nice hearing firsthand experiences. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Kathleen. I really appreciate it again. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity just to share, I think, what might be a very new destination on people's radar of, bucket list places that they want to travel to. So
Absolutely.
thank
And
you
they
for the
didn't know it
chance.
was on their bucket list until they saw it and went, I need to go there. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So I hope everybody has a great week. I'm going to see you guys next week. Goodbye, everybody.
Take care. Bye.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this week's cruise chat with Kristin with Silversea. It was really cool to see the Kimberley, to learn about that area, and to see all the neat things that they have there that I never even dreamed was going to be there. It was incredible. I really love hearing firsthand experiences, and I think that it's just fantastic that she went there, and I got to see some of her pictures when we were on Facebook, and I'm like, we've got our next topic for the cruise chat. So it was great. Absolutely. I'm so glad that she did that, and I hope you guys liked it too. Make sure you reach out to me at info@plentyofsunshinetravel.com because I really want to make sure that you can go and experience Silversea. If not the Kimberley, then one of their other amazing areas that they go to. It's just fantastic, the locations that they go. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will see you all next week or on board, and I hope to see you guys on some of our group cruises. I've got an amazing group cruise that's going to Tahiti next, and I would love for you all to come with me. That would be so much fun to meet some of you. I had the honor of meeting one of my podcast listeners when I was in Alaska, and that was so nice. It was so nice. She just said, "Oh, I listen to your podcast." I'm like, "Oh my goodness, that's really freaky." So it was neat too. So it was kind of cool to see her and to chat and just learn about how she cruises and what she likes to do, and it was just great. So it was kind of neat for her to be on the exact same voyage that I was going on. So I look forward to seeing you guys on board. If you're listening to this on our Cruising the Waves podcast, head on over to our YouTube channel because this video that we did today, or this chat, had so many images and it was just incredible. So I really want you to see them and to experience experience them, and you can just head over there. If you're interested in listening to one of my podcasts, it's Cruising the Waves podcast, and you can go and hit that one up and like and subscribe. So we see you guys later. Bye, everybody.